You know, as I was getting ready and preparing for this talk, I was sitting at school, and one of my associates came up to me and asked me what I was doing. And I said, well, I'm preparing a talk. And he says, what's it about? I said, it's going to be on premonitions. And he says, I don't believe that stuff. And I says, I know you'd say that. Okay. Well, that was just a joke. So here's a real question that was proposed by a student. I have a couple classes, and I have stuck my neck out. In the last week of the semester, I have what I call psychic phenomena. And we talk about mostly the things which have really good science behind them. And I had this one student, kind of a crusty old construction guy, probably a framer or something like that. And he raises his hand, and this is what he said: what's the point? And he says, why are we learning about this stuff? And so I think we've all heard people express that. And so what I hope to do today is to probably provide some answer to that. And I had a good answer for him, but we'll move on. Okay, I talked about reliability and reliability engineering, so we just need to make a definition. Reliability is just the attribute that a system has to continue to give you the functions for which it was designed. That's pretty simple, right? If we buy a car, we want it to continue to go down the road. Now, what about reliability engineering? See, how do I use this thing? Like that. There we go. It's got a nasty definition called coordinated, holistic, proactive approach to improving asset availability. Now, the assets that we have, the people we work with, the physical plants and things that we have, and the knowledge that we have. And we all want those to be able to improve the availability of those actions and to protect the humans that interact with them. Now, part of reliability engineering is a concept called situational awareness. And situational awareness is very important. We all need to keep track of what's going on around us, especially if we're driving. You know, you don't want to have people running into you or you running into someone else. And so situational awareness is knowing what's going on around you. Now, if you have poor situational awareness, your consciousness doesn't have a good grip on what's going on. And the project of the prospects for that is that the safety and the integrity and of the human, the physical, and the knowledge systems you have is doubtful. Okay? So what have premonitions got to do with any of this? Let's kind of shift gears now and talk about something a little bit related. We get information, and this is kind of the realm of psi. We get information from the past, comes to us, near-death experiences, past life recollections, things through mediums and things like that. We also get information from the remote present. And we've talked in this meeting about remote viewing and messages from others without hardware, things like that. And then we get information from the future, and that's premonitions or precognition. So we have all of these kinds of information that come to us. Now, they're all transfers of information. These are all in the psi realm. And they help us to be more situationally aware, know better about what's going on around us so that we can be aware of all the facts that are relevant to the safety of the people we deal with, the physical plant we have, and the knowledge that we contain. And this is especially true with regard to premonitions. Now, here's probably something somebody's going to wonder about. I'm saying that premonitions and other well-established psi things where we have good science behind it has become a knowledge base and is therefore technology. Now, technology really, some people think the only thing technology means is computers. I get this at school a lot, you know, because I'm in technology management program, and we deal with all kinds of things, not just computers. And I don't deal with the computers, and I'm criticized for that sometimes. So things like premonitions now, where Dean Radin's experiments have p-values that are in the astronomically low numbers. That's technology, and that's stuff that we can use. Technology is what we have for the benefit of humanity. Okay. Now this stuff that I'm talking about got started several years ago, back in the mid '80s. There was a professor of psychology at University of Texas, and under a NASA contract, he was given the research project to study what factors are common to incidents in systems. And his aim really was to learn to predict when accidents were imminent. That was the NASA project. Now, Helmrich and his associates discovered 5 things that enhance situational awareness. We're not going to go over these, but these are the things that people do that will enhance their situational awareness. Spatial orientation is one our students have a hard time with. That just means where you are in space and time with your surroundings. Okay? So, but more importantly, what they did discover were 11 clues that situational awareness had been lost. They studied several thousand, I don't know exactly what they studied. Incidentally, I've tried to find his research, and I can't find it. I actually had a conversation with him. I went and visited him when we were working with this. And I don't know where it is. What I got, I was working with Flight Safety International and Failure Analysis Associates to use this technology in industrial locations. But these are the 11 clues that tells you you're out of it. You don't know what you're doing. And we won't go over all of them. Just maybe like a departure from a standard operating procedures. Now, an operating procedure that you all write procedures at one time or another in your life. And when you're doing something in a safety critical industry, you want the best thinking of the best minds on that subject to make the procedure right. Okay? But when you depart from it, you move into a realm that is outside where the best thinking of the best minds have considered. Okay? And so then you have lost situational awareness because you don't know where you are. No one flying the plane. Nobody in control. And it might amaze you, in industrial situations, I have seen that happen on numerous occasions. There's nobody monitoring or in control of anything. And that's pretty scary when you got $200 million piece of junk sitting out there and it's at 1,200 degrees and you got oil in it and you got oxygen in it and nobody's in control. Ambiguities are things that don't make sense. You have instruments that give you this information and this information, and they don't mesh. They don't mesh. That means you don't know what's going on. And now down here, the one that they found, number 11, an apprehensive or gut feeling that something is wrong. Now that's a pure premonition. The gut feeling that something is wrong. So let's move on a little bit here. This is what they discovered. If you're in some sort of a operating procedure and you discover that 4 or 5 of these clues are present, the statistics on the research study by Helmrich showed that an incident was imminent. And that what you should do is put things into idle, go to a safe position, and find out what's wrong. The one that I thought was really interesting was every time they found somebody had this premonition that something bad was going on, 100% of the time there was an incident. Now, when an incident can be, doesn't have to hurt people, but it can. There's a potential for hurting people. But a lot of the times when you have an incident, you don't hurt somebody, but you can lose hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in just a flash of an eyelash sometimes. So, we have all kinds of incidents that can happen. Now, one of the things that I have noticed is that there's an experiential factor in premonitions. Now, I've got 29 grandkids as of today. And that means I have small children at my dinner table every once in a while. And if I see a glass of milk go from out front of the plate where I put it over here to the edge of the table, I can see it going on the floor. Now, I've had that happen a lot of times, see. Now, the first time that happened, I'm like, oh, well, that may not be too safe a place. But what this does is help us to recognize things and take appropriate actions. And so as we go through these things here, we have the opportunity of seeing things that are not normal. Now, what they can do for us then is help us be trained to recognize the premonitions. Because when you see those things, we train people to, they're gone. One of the things we do to train them is we go through a training procedure which trains them to recognize those clues. And they aren't necessarily premonitions in and of themselves, but they are things that will help you recognize a premonition, and because you've had the training, then it motivates you to do something about it, okay? And that's the value of this. Now, the FAA has required for many years now that this kind of training be given to commercial airline crews, and that includes the stewardesses also. And so you have these, and we often get religious and spiritual leaders who are encouraging us to pay attention to this kind of information. So we consider, and we've trained a lot of people. Now, we had a refinery in southern Kansas in which we had 420 people. Everybody in the plant was given this training. And a few months later, on one of the units, it wasn't working very good, and there was this and that, and they were struggling and turning the knobs, and nothing was happening right. And one of the guys said, "Look, there's 5 of those clues." The foreman says, "Hit the panic button," and that's an emergency shutdown. They did that. They resolved the issues very quickly in an hour or two, came back up, and only lost a minimal amount of money. Now, in another area, same kind of thing, different unit, different kind of personality. And somebody called attention to that some of these clues had cropped up, and he says, we worked through this. We've done this before. You just get out there and get this thing fixed. Within a few hours, everything coked up. I mean, every pipe and every vessel was full of solid carbon. And they were down for a month cleaning it out. Nobody got hurt. Lots of money lost. And the instructions of the workers, whenever you see 4 or 5 of these things to losing the situational awareness, move to a safe position. If the premonition factor is present, do it right now, quick. Now, here's one last example. Okay. Flying Tiger Airlines, bad communications, failure to act on premonitions. Flying Tiger Airlines came from the Flying Tigers of World War II fame, and they had an air freight company, and they were traveling from Borneo to Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. And it was a dark night. It was you couldn't really see much. There was no moon. And as they got on approach here to Kuala Lumpur, the air traffic controller in Kuala Lumpur called in and said, "You need to fly around and come in from the other direction because the instrument landing system is not in service from the direction you're coming in. Same kind of comment. Oh, come on now, he was kind of a cowboy. Yeah, we can do this. We've done manual landings before. We don't need to do that. Besides, that'll take us another hour to get around there and come back. And he says, we're not going to do it. Well, 3 times during this approach thing, the second officer said, oh, come on, Captain, let's just fly around. I really don't feel good about this. He did that 3 times, and he was rebuffed each time. And so the air traffic controller cleared them to go to, so he said, you are cleared to fly to 2400. And they were arguing about which frequency they should be on. That was a distraction. And what the crew heard was, you are cleared to 400. So at that point in time, right here, they reset the glide slope on the automatic pilot to go to 400 feet instead of 2,400. They began to continue because of the distraction. They did not recognize any of these because this wasn't part of the training at the time, and they flew into a mountain. And of course they're killed. And those were the ones that they were not doing. So I'm firmly convinced that this training works. It worked in all sorts of critical, safety critical industries, and we train people in it. And it's got a premonition part of it, and I think it helps. It's premonitionary with the other clues because it helps you recognize what's going on and act and be motivated to act. Okay?
Yes, thank you, John. Very interesting. Okay, I'm wondering.
Hi.
Yeah.
Very fascinating talk. My brother works for the Navy. He's at Bremerton Shipyard, and he was involved in refueling submarines. And we've talked on many occasions about their safety procedures. And he recently turned me to a book. I can't remember the author, sorry, but it's called Root Cause Analysis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I was wondering, looking at that, it seemed quite limited to me, and I wanted to know if you had seen that practice and how you would think of it.
Well, that's a subject that we teach in with relation to this here also, root cause failure analysis. That's 2 things. It's a technique of building an error chain where you start where the sharp end of the error chain is. That's where it hurts, okay? And you say, what caused that? And then what caused that? And then what caused that? And then what caused that? And so you develop an error chain that you can analyze and then take actions to solve a lot of problems. And so that's one thing. And then there is also a computer program you can buy that will walk you through it called root cause failure analysis. Very, very, very valuable technique. Yeah. Yeah.
Does it include psychological factors?
No, it doesn't. But one of the things I've done in my classes, I take that 11 clues sheet, and we use that in incident investigation to see if there was human error because they had missed 1 or 2 or more or 5 of those clues to losing awareness. So in that respect, yeah, we do. Yeah.
Right here. Thanks, John. I work for a company that talks about safety but doesn't really do anything about safety. Is there anything...
Very typical.
Yeah, yeah. And we've had accidents there, but it just got brushed under the rug. Any commercial training programs available?
Call me up, I'll give you one. No.
There we go.
Well, I think there are, yeah, I think there are some. There are people who, because the FAA requires, it's called crew resource management is the technical term for the entire training program.
Okay.
So I think there are, yeah.
I'll Google that. Thank you.
Anybody else situationally aware or unaware?
Unaware.
Thanks. It's a very fascinating presentation. Looking at the camera, I know I'm going to be feathered and tarred once the DVDs get out, but I was looking at the 11-point list, and it looked to me like a perfect checklist for a systemic business failure. And in the case I was thinking about was a big telecoms manufacturer from Finland, so you may have heard about it and its recent troubles. So I'm thinking, do you think this list has applicability beyond the technological reliability, like
yes, it
business
definitely
fields.
does. Yeah.
Right.
Matter of fact, you can use it in your family. For instance,
sense.
if you get a phone call at 3 in the morning saying your son's in jail, you need to come get him, that's bad situational apparent in the kind of your parenting. And I had a guy in my office who came home one day and the first of the month bills come in, and all of a sudden here is credit card bills from about 6 different places he didn't know he had a credit card for. And here was an $18,000 total charge all piled up. His wife had gone out and spent that much money, and they had nothing to show for it. The thing that they thought was she must have bought a lot of stuff, and there was receipts and things, but she didn't have them. And she gave it away, was what was happening. So there's all kinds. Financial situational awareness, credit cards is a big one. So it's a really powerful.
One additional continued question. Do you think it makes any sense to move the premonition from the 11th spot to the top?
Well, it's probably one of the better ones. As you're teaching it, you run into the problem, do they believe that one down there? Okay. But when you give them the rest of them and then people start coming up with examples, then that makes lots of sense to them. Yeah. Okay?
Okay, thank you, John, very much.